恭请大德圣听，为此法会，即一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱世离苦得乐，殊真无生。Will the Shankar with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to live suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, slanting life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha. Welcome back. This is lecture number 100. Excuse me, 173. Okay, so today we are still going to look at the things that people really like. For example, wealth, fame, long life, and heavenly rebirth. But I'm not sure why I say but. So we're going to continue in looking at how we can obtain those things, because you remember one of the sutras that I shared either last week or the week before, the Buddha said that if you pray for these things, if you pray for wealth, fame, long life, good health, and good rebirth, he said if you can get them, then no one would be lacking in them. So the Buddha said a noble one would understand cause and effect. So to get these things that everyone wants, you must understand what are the causes that lead to such outcomes. So we are going to explore all the various causes from many different sutras. Today I have a lot of different Theravada and Mahayana texts to share with everyone. And if we have time, which I don't think we have time, so that's probably next week. So where we are going with this, we're going to look at all the different ways we can get all the things everyone wants. Okay, so it's called what is welcome. Everyone wants to be happy, to be free of illnesses, to have wealth, to be famous or have influence, have power. And then we're going to look at, because it's the Dharma, we're going to look at what the Buddha actually says all those things mean. That means the deeper meaning, not just on the surface. The Buddha says, what do these things actually mean when we say we want them? So that's from a perspective of the Dharma. And then we're going to go deeper than that and look at, how you say, you know what, I'll keep it a surprise, okay? Since I have trouble trying to enunciate my thoughts, we'll come to that either next week or the week after, okay? All right, and before I forget, JinHe, I see you online. Are you in Malaysia or in Georgia right now? If you are there, if you are listening. Okay, you can type in the chat box if you are listening. Okay.
Sorry, Master. I was trying to find the unmute button.
Okay.
I'm in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, then good. All right. Now, this is from the Dhammapada. Usually the Dhammapada is from the Theravada canon, the Pali canon. But the Mahayana canon also has the Theravada canon is also included in the Mahayana canon. But sometimes there are differences. So this Dhammapada is from the Chinese, the Mahayana canon. And it's from there. So I don't exactly have the right reference, but I don't know how to pronounce that. Fa Chu Pi Yu Qing. Okay. Anyway, it's about kindness. So in here, the Buddha is saying, he says, if you want to obtain, the Buddha is actually speaking to a king. So he says, if you want to obtain cereals to eat, you must plow and sow. Okay, that makes perfect sense. If you want to obtain great wealth, you must practice giving. If you want to obtain a long life, you must show great compassion. Compassion means what? Compassion means when you see beings undergo suffering, you wish to alleviate their suffering, or that they are free of suffering. So in other words, if you have compassion, you will never ever play a role in the suffering of living beings. Okay. Then number 4, if you want to obtain wisdom, you must apply yourself to learning. That's very, very logical. Then Buddha says, if you practice these 4 things, you will gain their fruits as they are sown. A wealthy and honorable family does not covet the food of the humble, meaning that if you are of high station, you won't look for things that are beneath you, right? So what does a Buddhist do? A Buddhist doesn't, follower of the Buddha, we don't resort to lowly ways of character, of behavior. So the Buddha says, if one kills life to seek life, one is far from the path of life. If one kills the life of many in order to save one person, how could one succeed that way? Okay, now from here we move on to another sutra. And this sutra is very similar to one I shared before, but the language is a lot, makes more sense, okay, at least for me. So this is called the Bhojana or Food Sutta. And then the Buddha says, mendicants, when the giver gives food, they give the recipients 5 things. What 5? Long life, beauty, happiness, strength, and eloquence. So giving long life, they have long life as a god or human. Giving beauty, they have beauty as a god or human. When you give happiness, you get happiness back. When you give strength through food, you get strength back. So you give nutritious food. And when you give eloquence, and you know how to use your knowledge, you speak it in such a way that people understand. They are eloquent as a god or human. So god or human here means your next rebirth, either as a god or you can be born in the heavens. Okay. Now, it says, so the Buddha says, when the giver gives food, they give the recipient 5 things. Then the Buddha in verse, same sutra, the Buddha in verse says, a wise one is a giver of life, strength, beauty, and eloquence. An intelligent giver of happiness gains happiness in return. So there's a clue here, okay, giver of happiness, meaning when you give, your intent is to make other living beings happy. And that's very important. Why? Because one of the ways to gain, to generate merit on top of your blessings, okay, so instead of just blessings, you get merit and blessings, is that you must give thoughts of renunciation, you give with thoughts of loving kindness, and you give with thoughts of compassion or intent. All right. So when you give with intent of loving kindness, that means you wish yourself to be happy and for the happiness of others, that's where you can get happiness in return. So the Buddha says, giving life, strength, beauty, happiness, and eloquence, they are long-lived and famous wherever they are reborn. Okay. Now we move to the Shurangama Sutra. From the small, the Theravada, to the big. And here, the Buddha says, if people who recite the mantra, what mantra? The Shurangama mantra, from memory, wish for a long life. So the mantra is very long, 500 over lines. Some people take 3 months, 6 months to commit the mantra to memory. Some people take very, very quick. Within a matter of days or weeks, they can memorize the entire mantra. So the Buddha says, if you can recite it from memory, they will live a long life. If that's what you wish, okay, you wish for a long life, they will live for a long life. What they wish to accomplish, they will quickly accomplish. In the same way, they will also have health, good fortune, beauty, and strength. At the end of their lives, they will be reborn into whatever country in the 10 directions as they wish. They will certainly not be reborn among uncivilized people or at a lower level of society. By no means will they be born into any form that is less than human. So it's already difficult to encounter the Shurangama Sutra and the Shurangama Mantra. That's one. Number 2, it is difficult after you encounter the sutra to actually have faith in the sutra, because through history, there have been a lot of people who undermine the sutra. They say, oh, we can't prove that the Buddha spoke it. Or people who translate the sutra, they leave out the mantra altogether. They say, oh, when we translate this for Westerners, they're not used to the mantra, so we shall not include the mantra at all. So the sutra has encountered many obstacles, so much that Shufu spent quite a few talks having to explain how important the sutra was in maintaining the Dharma in this Dharma ending age. And then not only to get through all those hurdles, but then to be able to memorize the very, very long mantra. I think it's one of the longest mantras that we have. To be able to memorize that and to recite from memory shows that a person has very good roots. Okay, now we go to another text. This text, yes, Ron.
Sasha, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I was trying to take notes on when you said about giving with the 3 intentions. One was compassion. What was the other 2, sir?
Okay.
Something about
So
renunciation, but
yeah.
one was compassion. The 3 things. If you
So
wanted
3.
to,
Yes. So the first one is with thoughts of renunciation.
okay.
The second one is loving kindness, which is
Loving kindness.
metta. And then the third one, as you mentioned, is compassion.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is the English title is called The Storehouse of Sundry Valuables or Treasures. It's a compilation of stories taken from all the sutras, and it's from the Mahayana canon. I'm not sure if this is found in the Pali canon. I don't think so. Anyway, this is parable number 44, and it talks about saving ants. So there was someone, when I was in Singapore recently, someone asked me a question about the difficulty of not killing ants, how to avoid killing ants, and because ants are such a pest, not just ants but cockroaches as well. Well, if from here we can see how important it is to cherish life, even for such a small creature or creatures such as ants. Now, if you were to use your logic and you think about killing ants instead, oh my, how bad that would be. So anyway, coming back to this story, it says once there was a man of the path, an arhat, that means one who has ended birth and death. And this arhat had a novice monk. And being an arhat, he would have quite a few abilities. And he knew that this novice life wasn't very long. So usually, if you're a novice monk, you can kind of assume they are, somewhere maybe between 12 to 18 years old, not very old. They're still young, usually. Yeah. So anyway, he knew that this novice life was to end after 7 days. So he told the novice that he could go home and visit his family, and on the 7th day to come back. So, but he wasn't expecting him to come back because he knew he was going to die. So the novice took leave of his master and went home. Then on the way, the novice saw many ants floating on water and with their life about to end. So the novice monk had a compassionate thought. He took off his kasaya, that means the sash that he's wearing. A novice wears the sash that has cut into three. Monks wear sashes that are cut into a minimum of 9 pieces, but the novice was wearing 3 pieces. He filled it with earth. He made a dam in the water and he rescued the ants. Then he put them up in a high and dry place so the water wouldn't get to them after that. So he was very careful, very thoughtful. So that the ants could live. Then he went home, and then after he had finished his visit on the 7th day, he went back to his master's place, and the master was surprised. I mean, to surprise an arhat, I don't think it's very easy. Anyway, his master was surprised that, oh, I thought you would have died by now. So what did the master do? The arhat entered into samadhi so he could investigate what was actually going on. Okay, like, why is my novice monk still alive? And he saw that, oh, okay, well, before he saved the ants, the novice monk had no more merit left. So his lifespan was up. But by this act of saving the ants, he generated merit, and by that he he did not die when he was supposed to. Yeah. So sometimes they say karma is fixed. Yes, but karma also ripens based on conditions. And if you alter the conditions, then you alter different karmic seeds that arise, right? Yeah. So that's what happened to this novice monk, to the astonishment of arhat. Normally arhats know everything. Nothing escapes them. They look at you. They can... okay, an arhat needs to, most of the time, not all the time, but to investigate something, they need the mind to be still. Yeah. So yeah, usually not much escapes them. Okay, now this is a very interesting sutra. It's called a shorter analysis of deeds. It's pretty long. I have quite a few slides, but I think it's worth it. This sutra is because of this particular person called Suba. Who is Suba? Subha's father is Todiya. Okay, and for those of you who have a good memory, okay, you would remember that Todiya died. Okay, that means Subha's father died, and he was reborn as a dog. He was reborn as a dog in the same house that belonged to him formerly. Why did that happen? Well, when he was alive, he wasn't a very generous man. And what he did was he buried some treasure under his bed. And when he died, his thoughts were on his treasure, his buried treasure, because that was very important to him. So important that he buried it to the point that, you bury something to safekeep it, and then you die without the ability to enjoy it. So you safekeep it from yourself. So anyway, because of his attachment to his buried treasure, he was reborn as a dog. And when the Buddha passed by the house, the dog, Todeya, formerly known as Todeya, would come out and bark at the Buddha. Why? Because when he was a human being, he didn't support the Buddha. He supported the Brahmins. He was a Brahmin, so he supported the Brahmin priest. So he looked down on the Buddha. So to cut a long story short, when the dog barked at the Buddha said, "I know who you are, and I know why you are here." And the dog, knowing that the Buddha knew who he was, became very sad. Then when Subha came back, Subha was very close to the dog, not knowing that the dog was actually his former father. So he took care of the dog really, really well, like now, now for some people, their pets are treated a lot better than how they treat other people. So Subha treated the dog really well. And then when he came back and saw the dog was very sad, didn't want to eat, and he found out that, the Buddha had, he thought the Buddha had scolded the dog. So he went to see the Buddha. And then the Buddha revealed that, actually, the dog was used to be your father. And I will prove it to you, because how would someone believe such a thing, right? And so he told Subha, he said, when you go home, you make your father's favorite dessert that your father really liked to eat before. Excuse me, let me drink some water. And then he said, feed it to the dog. And then when the dog is sleeping, tell the dog to reveal where the buried treasure was. So Subha did that, and the dog revealed where the treasure was. He dug under the bed and he found the treasure. So now Subha believed in the Buddha. So when he came back to the Buddha, and this is where this part of the sutra begins, he was convinced that the Buddha knew more than he did. So what he asked the Buddha about cause and effect? Now that he knew that, you mean humans can be born as animals? So he asked the Buddha, he said, what is the cause, worthy Gautama? So at this time, he didn't consider himself the Buddha's disciple yet. So he addressed the Buddha by name. He said, what is the reason why among those who are human beings, some are seen to be inferior and superior? For people are seen who are short-lived and long-lived, sickly and healthy, ugly and beautiful, insignificant and illustrious, etc., etc. Huge variation in the fortunes of living beings. So he says, why? Why is the world this way? All right, he wants to know why. Basically, why is the world unfair? That's what he's asking. Why is the world like this? Why does it seem to be so unfair? So the Buddha told him, student, sentient beings are the owners of their deeds, meaning karma. All right, deeds here means karma, and heir to their karma. Their karma is their womb, their relative, and their refuge. It is deeds that divide beings into inferior and superior. So who we are, what's responsible? Our karma. Who's responsible for our karma? Ourselves, our past selves. No one else to blame except us. So the Buddha gives he elaborates. He says, take a person who kills living creatures. They are violent, bloody-handed, a hardened killer, merciless to living beings. Because of undertaking such deeds, when their body breaks up after death, they are reborn in a place of loss, a bad place, the underworld, or the hell. If they are not reborn in a place of loss, but return to the human realm, then wherever they are reborn, they are short-lived. For killing living creatures is the path leading to a short lifespan. So that's very direct. Okay, if you have no compassion, all right, and you take the life of living creatures, in turn you will have a short, if you don't fall into the hells. Okay, if you fall into the hells, then but when you do, or if you don't, when you come back as a human being, you get a short lifespan. And those of you who have read the Earth Store Sutra will know that. And then it says, but take a person who gives up killing living creatures. They renounce the rod and the sword. They are scrupulous and kind, living full of sympathy for all living beings. Sympathy here means compassion. Because of undertaking such deeds, or karma, when their body breaks up, after death they are reborn in a good place or a heavenly realm. If they are not reborn in a heavenly realm, but return to the human realm, then wherever they are reborn, they are long-lived. Okay, and it says, for not killing living creatures is the path leading to a long lifespan. So you want to know what's the secret to long life? Not killing creatures. What's the secret to not killing creatures? Compassion. True, actual, proper compassion. The compassion that when you see a living creature, either behind their eyes or you see past the body, and you see that there is something in there that longs to live, that also wants to seek comfort, happiness, the same things that you do, just that you don't understand because you don't understand their state. Okay, now then the Buddha says, take a person who habitually hurts living creatures, all right, with fist, stone, any weapons, and then what will happen when they get reborn as a human being, or when they come back from the hell? Well, you fall sick. You're always sickly. You have no health. All right, and the converse is that if you don't harm living creatures, but if you take care of them and all that, then you are blessed with healthy life. Okay. Now, take a person who is irritable and bad-tempered. Even when lightly criticized, they lose their temper, becoming annoyed, hostile, and hard-hearted, and displaying annoyance, hate, and bitterness. That means their ego is very fragile. What happens to this type of people? They become very ugly. Makes sense. I mean, there's a certain kind of logic to it. Why? Because when someone is annoyed, when someone is hostile, when someone loses their temper, if you look at their face, they become very ugly. They're not pleasant to look at all. Yeah. But what happens if you don't? If you practice patience, if you practice always welcoming when people point out your faults, because that's how you can improve. You have no hate, you have no bitterness. Well, you are reborn in a heavenly realm. Or if you're born as a human, you are very nice to look at, good looks. Now, Buddha moves on to jealousy, envy, resentment. When you see other people getting things that are good and wholesome, like respect, reverence, you get jealous. And there's something in you that makes you feel bad. Okay? What happens? You become insignificant. No one cares about you. You have no voice. You have no power. You have no influence. When decisions are made, people don't really care about your opinion. Yeah. So that's what you become. Now, then moving on, Buddha says, take a person who doesn't give to ascetics or Brahmins such things as food, drink, clothing, vehicles, garlands, fragrance, and makeup, and beds, house, and lighting. That means people who are of virtuous behavior. And then because of undertaking such deeds after death, let me see, they are poor. You are born poor. But if you do, then you're born rich. Okay. Now, moving on. What happens if you're obstinate and arrogant? You don't bow to anyone you should bow to. You don't rise up for them. You don't offer them a seat. It means you're not respectful. Okay, you don't how you say, you don't recognize wisdom or virtue in people who have those things. Because, so in other words, you yourself are unable to appreciate virtue and respect. So what happens? Well, you get reborn in a low-class family where everyone looks down on you. You don't command respect. Okay. Now, moving on. Take a person who doesn't approach an ascetic or Brahmin to ask, "Sir, what is skillful and what is unskillful? What is blameworthy and what is blameless? What should be cultivated and what should not be cultivated?" That means you ask for instructions on life, how to navigate life skillfully, how to be a better version of who you are, how to seek happiness in a proper, wholesome way, how to avoid trouble. Okay. Now, if you don't seek after wisdom, right? When you get reborn, either you fall into the hells or you come back as a human being, or you're reborn as a human being, you're witless. Okay, you're not wise. You lack wisdom, so you make wrong decisions. Why? Because when you had the opportunity to learn, you did not. Okay, so the converse, the Buddha says, asking all these things, this is the same as the previous slide, it's just the opposite. So the Buddha says, when you're reborn, you are very wise. For asking questions of ascetics or Brahmins is the path leading to wisdom. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions. Okay, if you have any questions, you can type into the chat box because we still have one more slide on this. Okay, so you want to be wise, ask questions. Okay, what should I do? I have this problem. What can I do? I don't understand this. What does this mean? Questions like that. Sometimes you can ask questions like this is what bodhisattvas do. They ask questions not because they don't know the answer, they know the answer. But they ask because they know that other people don't know how to ask, or other people don't know the answer. Either way, they ask to benefit other living beings. Okay, now finally, the Buddha says, so it is the way people live that makes them how they are. All right, whether short-lived or long-lived, sickly or healthy, ugly or lovely, insignificant or illustrious, poor or rich, in a low class or eminent family, or witless or wise. So the teaching of cause effect is very simple. Who you want to be, you try your best to be now. Okay, if you want to be like Guanyin Bodhisattva, first you have to understand what that means. Okay, what Guanyin Bodhisattva represents. And then second, you have to work hard, okay, in your body, your actions, your speech, and your thoughts to mold yourself like Guanyin. It is only that way that you can get closer and closer to what or who Guanyin is. All right? And that's why they say you take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Because it is through that you uncover your potential. So you plant the right causes to get the effects that you desire. All right? Now, next we have another sutta called the Pathakama Sutta. It's called Fitting Deeds or Fitting Karma. So the householder Anatta Pindika. Okay, last week I spoke about who Anatta Pindika was. She was the one who purchased the Jeta Grove. He covered the entire ground with gold coins. That's the one, the Buddha's chief patron. So he went to the Buddha about, and then the Buddha gave him a teaching. The Buddha said, householders, these four things that are likable, desirable, and agreeable are hard to get in the world. What for? So the first is, may wealth come to me by legitimate means. Okay, that means you get wealth but in an honest way. Then, once you're rich, what else do you want? It says fame. You want fame. What is fame? Fame is that people don't, there's respect. People see you for who you are. Your words matter. When you say something, people listen. Yeah. And then number 3, when you have wealth and fame, what you also fame also means reputation. Okay, you have good reputation. And once you have those, what do you want? You want a long life. Why? Because now you can enjoy life, right? And people don't look down on you. So it's natural to want a long life. You want to keep alive for a long time. Then number 4, when you have all of this, then what's next? Well, you want a good rebirth. So you can live your life stress-free with the knowledge, knowing that when you die, nothing bad is going to happen to you. You're going to go to a good place. Okay, that's a very important, that's a very important thing to have in life. So you're not stressful. You can sleep at night. Okay, now the Buddha says, these next 4 things lead to the getting of those 4 things. Okay, that means what should you do to get these 4 things? Buddha says accomplishment in faith or confidence, ethics or virtue, generosity and wisdom. All right. And the Buddha explains, he says, what is accomplishment in faith or confidence? He says it's when a noble disciple has confidence in the Buddha's awakening, that the Blessed One is perfected, a fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy knower of the world, supreme guide for those who wish to train, teacher of gods and humans, awakened, blessed. This is called accomplishment in faith. That means you have studied the Buddha's teachings, the Dharma, enough to know that when the Buddha speaks, the Buddha is not using theory. The Buddha is not trying to make you do one thing just because that's what the Buddha thinks is right. No, the Buddha speaks the truth. Not truth as in truth, but truth as in how things are, the way things are in this world. And over time, when you get to know more and more of the Dharma and you practice the Dharma, you realize for yourself, oh yes, what the Buddha says is actually true. It's like this. When you do this, this will happen. When you do that, that will happen. Or you observe people that are following the Buddha's teachings. Why? Because you're smart. You observe people and you realize, oh, the Dharma does make a difference. So you have confidence in the Buddha. That's number 1. Number 2, accomplishment in ethics is when a noble disciple doesn't kill, doesn't steal, the 5 precepts, okay? No sexual misconduct, doesn't lie, and doesn't take intoxicants. That's called accomplishment in ethics. There's another sutra that the Buddha explains how when you do these things, it can actually affect your wealth. But we won't go into that because that's a slightly different topic. And then accomplishment in generosity in giving. He says, when a noble disciple lives at home, rid of the stain of stinginess, freely generous, open-handed, loving to let go, committed to charity, loving to give and to share. This is called accomplishment in generosity. Okay, not just giving, but you love to give. All right, you love to let go. Why? Because your life becomes simpler, and when you give, you become happier. To understand this, okay, you try giving away your most precious thing or your favorite thing. When you can, when you can do that, all right, and do it without regret. Oh, you don't feel sad, and you feel joy, then you will understand what the Buddha means. Okay, not easy at all. Okay, and then the last one, accomplishment in wisdom. What is that? It says when your heart is mastered by covetousness and immoral greed, you do what you shouldn't and fail to do what you should. Your fame and happiness fall to dust. When your heart is mastered by ill will, dullness and drowsiness, restlessness and remorse, doubt. You do what you shouldn't and fail to do what you should. Your fame and happiness falls to dust. Wait a minute. This is supposed... That doesn't sound right. That sounds more like not accomplishment in wisdom, right? Okay, let's see where this goes. Okay. Knowing that covetousness and immoral greed are corruptions of the mind, that noble disciple gives them up. Knowing that ill will, doubt... Okay, all right, I see where this is going. Okay. What is accomplishment in wisdom? It means you know what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Because you know that if you do the things that you shouldn't do, what will happen? Your fame and happiness will fall to dust. Okay, so coming back to this slide, so you give up those unwholesome ways of living your life. Then it says, when you have given up these things, you are called a noble disciple of great wisdom, of widespread wisdom, who sees what matters and is accomplished in wisdom. This is called accomplishment in wisdom. And the Buddha says, these are the 4 things that lead to the getting of the 4 things that are likable, desirable, and agreeable, but hard to get in the world. Okay, now the Buddha goes further. He says, now that you have wealth, all right, because Anatta Pindika is very rich. So he says there are 4 fitting deeds that a noble disciple does with the legitimate wealth he has earned by his efforts and initiative, etc., etc. And what are the 4? Okay, that means how do you spend your money wisely? The Buddha doesn't say don't spend money. No, the Buddha doesn't say that at all. The Buddha doesn't say money is harmful. No, the Buddha says how can you use your wealth in a wise way? So Buddha said, to start with his legitimate wealth, he makes himself happy and pleased, keeping himself properly happy. So you spend on yourself, whatever you like, go and buy. Okay, as long as it doesn't go against the precepts. And not only yourself, he makes his mother and father happy. So you're filial, all right? You remember your parents. And then after your parents, your children, your partners, your bond servants, that means the people who in your household who works for you, your workers, your staff, your friends, your colleagues. And Buddha says this is his first expenditure in an appropriate sphere on a deserved and fitting cause. All right, but by now, this person with wealth also has wisdom. Okay, so he is not wantonly spending his money and spoiling people. No, he does it with wisdom. Okay, now, furthermore, with his legitimate wealth, he defends himself against threats from such things as fire, flood, rulers, bandits, or unloved heirs. He keeps himself safe. So you use your money to buy confidence. This is his second, like insurance and you feel safe. So this is his second expenditure in an appropriate sphere on a deserved and fitting cause. Then number 3, he makes 5 spirit offerings. That means to relatives, to guests, to ancestors, to kings, and to deities. This is his third expenditure in an appropriate sphere. Why can't I pronounce it now? Sphere. Yes, sphere. On a deserved and fitting cause. Then what's the last one? He says, he establishes an uplifting religious donation for ascetics and Brahmins. Those who avoid intoxication and negligence, are settled in patience and gentleness, and who tame, calm, and extinguish themselves. That's conducive to heaven, ripens in happiness, and leads to heaven. Why? Because these people, not only do they have virtue, but they're also a source of wisdom. So this is the 4th way that you can use your money in a wholesome way. Okay, now then Buddha says, whatever wealth is spent on something other than these 4 fitting deeds is said to not be expenditure in an appropriate sphere on a deed. That means not skillful. Okay, that's a lot of words That just means it's not a skillful way to spend your money. So the Buddha gives a verse. It says, I've enjoyed my wealth, supporting those who depend on me. I've overcome losses. I've given uplifting religious donations and made the 5 spirit offerings. Then there's more to the verse, which is, I've served the ethical and disciplined spiritual practitioners. I've achieved the purpose for which an astute layperson wishes to gain wealth. I don't regret what I've done. A mortal person who recollects this stands firm in the teaching of the noble ones. They are praised in this life and they depart to rejoice in heaven. Okay, before I move on, any questions? Anyone? No? Remember, asking questions, you get wise, you get wisdom. Okay, so Cindy says, will these slides be shared? Yeah, I'm going to post the recording of on YouTube, and then you can get it from the recording. Unless you want the PowerPoint slides, then you can let me know on WhatsApp, and then I can send them to you. Okay. Now, this is from the Tibetan canon. I haven't investigated whether it's from the Pali canon or from the Mahayana. Is a Mahayana Sutra or a Theravada text, and what is the other reference? But it doesn't matter. It's called Simha's Questions. Oh wait, let me see. This is probably from the Theravada text. Yeah. Oh wait, no. I think this is Mahayana because it talks about bodhisattvas. Anyway, this text is about a person called Simha asking the Buddha questions. So what are his questions? He says, how does one become beautiful? How does one take miraculous birth? How does one remember previous births? Great sage, which is the Buddha. Please give your instruction. What is miraculous birth? I think miraculous birth is something like when Shuvu was born, his mother had some auspicious dream and could see light. Or when Elder Master Shiyin was born, he was born in a caul, in a sack, which prevented him from touching the fluids of the body, the mother's body, something like that. Okay. Anyway, the Buddha says, one becomes beautiful through patience. Remember, anger makes you act ugly. All right. So you have patience, you become beautiful. One takes miraculous birth by pure conduct. One recalls past lives by giving the Dharma. Youth know it to be thus. That means this is the truth I'm telling you. But this youth has many questions. So it says, by what action is a bodhisattva born in the presence of the guardians of the world? Okay, guardians of the world here is not guardians of the galaxy, as in that those superhero movies. Guardians of the world here means accomplished bodhisattvas like Guanyin Bodhisattva, Earth Store Bodhisattva, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, and above, meaning including the Buddhas. Okay. How do they come to ask questions directly before the guardians of the world? So the Buddha says, the one who never obstructs the giving of Dharma will with great swiftness come to meet the guardians of the world. Okay. So what more, okay, if you not just do not obstruct, which is very passive, okay, but you actually play an active role in the giving or the sharing of Dharma. You know, you help build a temple, for example. You do certain things that enable the Dharma to be shared. Like you ask questions, all right? Asking questions. I keep on repeating that. You know, things like that. Okay, you print sutras. Printing sutras is another one. Yeah. Okay. Now. Oh, also, let me go back to the slide. Also, you don't obstruct yourself from learning the Dharma. Like all of you here, there's you know that there's a lecture going on, and you take the precious time from otherwise what you could be doing on a Sunday morning or night, and listen to the Dharma. Okay, things like that. Okay, then Simha, like I said, has a lot of questions. It says, how does one come to have a long life? How does one come to have fewer illnesses? And he says, does a retinue come to be undivided? And then the Buddha says, one comes to have a long life but not killing. One will have fewer illnesses by causing no harm. A retinue comes to be undivided when one reconciles disputes. So retinue means a following, a group. And if you want to retain a group, say like your family or in a company, when you work with people, when you are able to overcome their differences and help them overcome differences, very, very hard to do. Very, very hard to do. Okay. Then it says, how does one obtain wealth? How do possessions cease to diminish? That means how do you not just obtain wealth, but the wealth doesn't dissipate? How does one become distinguished wherever one is born? There are some people in, how do you say, that can accomplish great things very, very easily. I mean, it's not easy, but they can accomplish great things that most people, 99.999 more than that percent of people can't do, and not only they do it once, they can do it a second, third, fourth, fifth time. So it's not due to luck. It's due to some special skill that they have. So the Buddha say, wealth is obtained through non-attachment. Non-attachment here means what? Renunciation. What does renunciation mean? Giving and generosity. Okay. Possessions increase by being without stinginess. One will be distinguished wherever one is born by being without jealousy. So you can rejoice in others' happiness. That's called number 3 of the 4 Brahma Viharas. Metta, which is loving kindness, karuna, compassion. Can someone help me out? What's number 3? Which is rejoicing in others' happiness. But there's a different. Mudita, yes. And how is Mudita? That's Mudita's name. Mudita is the one who gives the answer because that's her name.
Is there empathetic joy?
Yes. Thank you so much, Ron. That's the English empathetic joy. But it's empathetic joy. I like to call it insurance for happiness. That means when someone gets something good, they are praised, they get a new car, they get a promotion, whatever it is, something wholesome, you feel happy for them. You really feel happy for them. Okay? So that's what it means to be without jealousy. Okay. Actually, that surpasses being without jealousy because you can be inert. You don't feel jealous, but you have a heart of stone. You don't feel anything at all. So empathetic joy is a lot, surpasses that. Okay. Says, wherever one is born, how can one acquire great strength and always be elevated with power so that even 10 million maras can do no harm? What does this mean? It means people can't influence you in a negative way. Okay. So the Buddha says, in this life, if one offers the 5 essences and gives courage to those who are afraid, then wherever one is born, one will also have great strength, always be elevated with power, and be unharmed even by 10 million maras. So power here can mean 2 things. Power as in actual strength, okay, not just physical but spiritual strength. Spiritual as well as physical strength, to the extent that when people with unwholesome tendencies, like represented by Mara, they cannot sway you from when you made a proper decision, they cannot sway you. Okay, here it says if one offers the 5 essences. Now, I don't really know what the 5 essences here mean. According to the people who translated the sutra, they say it could be honey, sugar, salt, ghee, and sesame oil. Okay, these are things that when you add to your food, it makes your food taste really good. Yeah. Whether the sutra actually means these 5, I don't think so, because I think this being a Mahayana sutra, I think it's a lot more profound. But there's no commentary on this sutra that I could find. Actually, I didn't find. So, but I'm not aware of a commentary on this sutra. So I think you can interpret the 5 essences to be anything, like for example the 5 precepts, for example, or anything wholesome. I think you won't be wrong. You may not be entirely right, but you won't be wrong either. Okay. Now, it is time. It is just a few minutes before 10:30. Does anyone, again, I'm hoping for, if anyone has any questions, because if not, we're going to end here. Because then next week, what we will do is we will look at all these things that people want from a different perspective. Okay. All right. If not, then we'll dedicate merit. Today is we've managed to end on time, which is very, very unusual. Okay. Does anyone remember if we are doing the regular dedication of merit this week?
Yes, regular.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Melinda. Okay, I'm going to put my palms together. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay everyone, Amitabha, and we'll see you all next week.